Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mathilde. I am a French beginner knitter and today we're going to talk about my spring knitting plans and inspirations. So this is my first time knitting in the spring. I started knitting last year at the beginning of the year, and I started after knitting my first sweater. I started to knit the Marseille sweater by PetiteKnit, but it took me a month to finish it, and that was my only project, except for maybe a pair of socks. But that means that I haven't really started to knit, or I haven't already knit during the spring, so I'm not really sure what's best to knit, what I want to be, what kind of knitwear I want to be wearing during that time. So it's kind of a, you know, figuring it out kind of year for me in terms of knitting plans. So maybe there are some things that might not be actually weather appropriate that I might regret knitting. Maybe, I'm not sure, we'll see. I will definitely make a video at the end of the spring talking about my summer plans, and maybe I will have learned a few things from my spring knitting plans video before I start planning my summer knits. We'll see. Before I dive in and share what patterns I want to make or what my dream knits are, like if I had all of the time in the world, what would I make? I wanted to, you know, think back on my winter knitting plans and what I've actually done or not done. So the first pattern that I wanted to make was the Cashmere Beanie by Gregoria Fibers. I was actually wanting to use this yarn for it, which is classic Cardiff Cashmere Classic, which is 100% cashmere in this beautiful brown natural colour, which I think is 511. Yeah, 511. As you can see, I've not actually knitted it, but I would like to make it for next winter. I just, when it came to the time where I wanted to cast it on, it was already February, and by that time I wouldn't have worn it. So I'm actually going to reuse this yarn, I think, or like use this yarn for something else this spring, which I'll share in a moment, and use another, like maybe this Cardiff Cashmere Classic, but in another colorway, maybe the same colorway, we'll see, for next winter. The next pattern that I wanted to make were the Claudia gloves by Awesome Makes. I've actually made two of them, so I'm really pleased with that. I made one pair for a friend and one pair for myself. I've actually worn them a few times and I love them. But I think that was the only winter accessory that I made for myself. Before Christmas I made a few winter accessories for others, but yeah. Then I wanted to make the coffee socks by the Petite Knitter, didn't end up making them. I wanted to make the Bombec, which was like a hood kind of thing. I don't remember the designer, but I'll put it on the screen. Didn't make that one. I wanted to make the Alder sweater by Rebecca Clow, which is still on my needles, so that's an ongoing process that I'm going to take into spring. Then I wanted to make the Storm Sweater Junior by PetiteKnit. I actually ended up making a storm sweater for myself. Again, still on the needles, but I don't mind having it on the needles during spring, maybe even the summer, we'll see. I also wanted to make the Raffaella sweater by Gregoria Fibers, which is a turtleneck raglan sweater. I have the yarn for it. I just, again, by the time I wanted to cast it on, it was already a bit late into winter, and I wasn't sure I was going to wear a turtleneck during spring, so I'm going to put that aside and maybe knit it next fall. And then I think I talked about the Era sweater by November Knits. I think I definitely want to make it this year, but didn't make it this winter. And then finally the No Frills cardigan, which I was hoping to start for spring, but I had some issues with the gauge swatch, and so I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with that. which if you want to hear more about that, I talked about it in my latest podcast, which I'll link up here. So yeah, I didn't end up making a lot of the plans that I had wanted to make, but I did have a test knit during December, which took up most of my time. That was the Fennel Sit Jacket by Florence Miller, or Handmade by Florence, which is now out, so I'll link it down below. And then I had an impulse cast on, which was the sweater number 18, which I've finished now, and which I absolutely adore. And that was, I feel like planning knits is lovely, and I really like doing that because I always do that. However, I think it's nice to have that kind of impulse cast-ons from time to time, because I just loved knitting that sweater, and now wearing it, it's one of my favorites, so I like no regrets at all. But yeah, those were my winter knitting plans, and like the roundups of what I ended up doing or not doing. So now let's dive into the knits that I want to make for spring, and I will first start with the sweaters. If I have the yarn for them, I will show it, and if I don't, maybe I will say what kind of yarn I'm thinking about using. Again, I'm not like 100% sure that I'm going to cast all of them on. I don't think I will finish all of them before the end of spring. I've got a couple of knits on the needles at the moment, which I've mentioned before, and others that I've not mentioned, that I've like put aside, but maybe I want to finish them before spring ends. So, you know, these are just like ideas, but they won't necessarily come true. But hopefully it might give you some inspiration, and yeah. Anyways, let's dive in. So the first sweater that I want to make is the Norma sweater by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Is it a good idea to cast this on in the springtime? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I will get a lot of wear out of it, like during the spring, summer, before fall. We'll see. As I said, I'm like trying to see what kind of things I can wear during the spring, summer, but I don't want to stop knitting on sweaters for now. Maybe I'll regret that, especially since Norma sweater uses mohair. We'll see. For now, the weather is like, it's kind of sunny, and sometimes it can get already really warm, around 20 degrees Celsius, which isn't that warm, but I mean for spring, for March, like you can get 11 degrees one day, and the next day it will be 20 degrees. So it's quite a huge gap in temperature is what I mean. So anyways, we'll see if I end up wearing it right away. But this is kind of an impulse cast on. I just fell in love with the design. I didn't really want to purchase the yarn because I've been trying to hold off on buying too much yarn. But I just fell in love with it. I couldn't get it out of my head. I just needed to cast it on, and I really want to try to knit colorwork. One of my plans for the end of the year is to try to knit the porcelain sweater by Lene Holme-Semse, or by Lenit. So that's kind of a difficult colorwork sweater for someone who's never knit colorwork. So I thought the Norma sweater was kind of a maybe, hopefully, a good one to use to dive into colorwork knitting for the first time. So I'll first describe a little bit the pattern, but then I'll show you the yarn and the swatch, because I've already casted it on actually. I won't show you the project in itself, I'll just show you the swatch, but it is already on my needles. The Norma sweater is a top-down raglan with a high mock neck, which is the first time I'm going to do a mock neck, which I'm really excited about, and it is inspired by the 60s and 70s knitting traditions. It is part of the Isager archived collections, which is lovely. So I am using the recommended yarn. So let me put this aside. It's a little bit of a mess. Okay. So my main colour is going to be Isager Tweed or Isager Tweed in the colorway Raw White, which is 70% wool and 30% mohair, held with Isager Silk Mohair, which is 70% kid mohair and 25% silk, in the colorway 6. So as you can see, these are not really the same colors. I didn't really want something that was too white, and I thought holding it with this like kind of blush beige would tone it down a little bit, which it did. It looks so beautiful. So that's my main colorway, and then the first contrast color is I've already caked it up, sorry, but it is Isager Tweed again, but in the colorway Chocolate, held with Isager Silk Mohair in the colorway, I think this is 60, but I'll put it on the screen anyway. This is my first time using Isager Silk Mohair, and I love it. When I received it for the first time and I held it against my skin, I was like, oh, it doesn't feel as soft, or like it doesn't feel softer than knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, for example, or Sandnes Garn tin silk mohair, but actually knitting it up, it feels a bit softer than that. It feels really lovely, and I really like this. This is quite a rustic yarn. It's not too rustic. It's not as rustic as Isager Iron Tweed, which I used for the fennel sit jacket, but it's still a little bit, it's woolly. It's very woolly, but I think maybe the mohair that's in it kind of tones down the rusticness of it. But these two together feels really nice. I'm still kind of scared that it's going to be a little bit scratchy, especially against my neck, because this is a high mock neck, but we'll see. And then the last contrast color is Tvinni by, again, Isager in the colorway 33S, which is this really pretty red. I was thinking about making the Norma sweater as a like neutral browns beige colorwork sweater, but I decided that I really wanted just one pop of color, and I thought the red was really nice. I don't think I would make a full garment in this red. I really like burgundy red, but not, that's a bit too much for me for a full garment, I think. We'll see, maybe I'll change my mind. But yeah, I really wanted to use this, and so the swatch that I made, I haven't woven in any ends, but this is what it looks like. I am an English style knitter, but I don't know how to explain that. I think I've got mohair in my mouth. I think what it's called is I flick my yarn instead of holding it with one, I don't even know which finger, but I really make a movement with my hands, if that makes sense. So colorwork for me is a little bit difficult, and I think I could try to knit. I don't think I want to try continental knitting, but I think I could do English knitting with like the proper way, let's say. But that will definitely change my tension, I think. I'm quite a tight knitter, and I kind of enjoy that because my tension is really, really smooth with most of my knitting. But I think if I switch to English style with the proper way to hold your yarn, I will become much more of a loose knitter, and I'm not sure like what my tension will be like, so I'm kind of scared to do that. But I think it looks okay. I'm just a bit scared of when I actually knit in the round what that will look like, because this is quite small, as you can tell. So we'll see. But I'm really happy with the color choice that I made. I think it's going to look really, really stunning. So all of that to say that I'm going to knit Norma sweater, which is already on my needles, and the next pattern that I would like to make is a cardigan. I really want a cardigan this spring, and I think a cardigan is such a good you know, transitional piece. But I'm not sure which cardigan I want to make. There's the No Frills cardigan, which by PetiteKnit, which I've mentioned before, which I already have the yarn for, so that would be the obvious choice. But because of my issue with the gauge, I'm kind of hesitant to cast it on. And also I don't think I will have this finished by the end of the spring, so you know, there are other cardigans that I've got my eye on, but they're not out yet, so I'm not like 100% sure that I want to make them. The first one is the Braidy loop cardigan by Other Loops, which looks really beautiful. It's a like quite simple, I think, drop shoulder cardigan with a cable running down the side of the sleeve only, I think. She's already got the Braidy loop sweater out, so it's the same version but as a cardigan, which looks really, really pretty, but I don't know if I want to knit cables during the spring. And then the other one is, I think it's called the Rivendell cardigan by Sari Nordlund, which again I think looks really, really pretty, but it's not out yet. It's got cables, so I'm not sure. I will put up pictures of these two, so you can see what I'm thinking about, if I can find pictures of them. But yeah, if you've got any suggestions for a cardigan, kind of, because the thing is, I think the Braidy look cardigan and the Rivendell cardigan are quite, not thick, but they're not as lightweight as I would want them to be for spring. So I don't know. The other sweater that I would love to make, but I'm not sure I will have time, but that's like it's still on my list as a to knit, but we'll see. It might get switched to my fall plans, but that is the Cargill sweater by Clow. This is a top-down raglan with an all-over dip stitch pattern, which is just so lovely. I would like to knit it in, so hear me out. I've talked about this pattern a few times on my channel, I think, and I talked about wanting to knit it in a neutral, and then I talked about knitting it kind of the same colorways as Sarah from Two Pearls in a Pod has knit, which I fell in love with, which she used Knitting for Olive Merino and Soft Silk Mohair, one in Dusty Artichoke and the other one in Dusty Sea Green. I think I would do the Dusty Sea Green for both. So we'll see. I'm not 100% decided. I think I would do the green version because I think that would just look really, really pretty. But we'll see. I haven't bought any yarn yet, because I'm not 100% sure that I will have time to knit it, and I want to start knitting some t-shirts. So that's a good segue into my next category, which is tees. The first one that I want to make is the Moonset Tee by Ozetta. I've got the yarn that I would like to use for that. I've actually casted it on as well already. This is a hand-dyed, French and hand-dyed yarn that I bought last October. This is Caresse Fingering by L'Atelier Teinture in the colorway Nuit. It is, let me get the label. It is 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk and 10% cashmere, which I think is such a good yarn combination, or like fiber combination for spring. I initially wanted to knit the Luna Tee by Caresse with this yarn, but when I swatched, it was just looking too gapey, because I'm a tight knitter, so I have to go up at least like half a needle size, or a full needle size, like going from 3mm, for example, to 3.5mm needles. So it wasn't the look that I wanted for this pattern, which I think I will make this spring or this summer, but not with this yarn. So this is the yarn that I want to knit it in, the Moonset Tee, and this is my swatch for it. I won't show you the on the needles knit. What am I saying? I don't think I will show you the object that I've got on my needles, because first of all it doesn't look like much right now, and second of all I think that's best for a podcast episode. But this is what it's looking like. It's a little bit see-through when I hold it up like that, but I think it's going to be really nice as a t-shirt, and the fabric is really, really stunning. The Moonset Tee by Ozetta, I'm sure you've seen it already, but it is a like v-neck t-shirt with I-cord edges, and I think I-cord also on the bottom hem. But it's kind of overlaps in the front, which I think is really, really pretty, and it is a drop shoulder. It requires, I think, like 870 meters of yarn, and I've got 2 of these, and that's 800 meters. So definitely going to play yarn chicken. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit the sleeves first, maybe make them a little bit shorter than in the pattern, and then I will crop the body a little bit, and hopefully that should be fine, but we will see. I bought enough to make the Luna Tee, but it's not enough for the Moonset Tee, which is a bit of a shame, but I think it will be fine. So the next one obviously is the Luna Tee by Caresse. I'm not sure which yarn I'm going to use for that. It is a top down 2x2 broken rib raglan tee, which I think looks really, really pretty. And it's quite fitted, which I think I will like. And then I've got 2 other tees on my list, and I'm not sure which one between those 2 I would like to make. The first one is the Lane Loop Tee by Other Loops. It is quite a loose fitting raglan t-shirt that's got this really lovely rib detail on the sleeves, I think, or maybe here on the body, I don't remember. But the one thing that I'm not sure about with this one, I really love the look, and I love the look of the same version but as a sweater, but the tee is knitted with 1 strand of mohair and 1 strand of wool, and so I don't think I want to use that yarn combination for spring, because that would be too warm, but I'm not sure if I could substitute it with like any kind of DK weight yarn. So I've got to figure that out, but I'll definitely wait until I've finished the Moonset Tee before I choose my next tee patterns. The next one is also on my radar, and it is the Miles Tee by Ozetta. Again, it is a drop shoulder, sort of loose, but yeah, it's got 10 centimeters of positive ease, but it's got some eyelet back shaping, and it's, I think, also got some kind of I'm not sure what to call that, like a curled hem, so I think it's like curved at the bottom, and it's got a little bit of a slit on the side, not really a proper slit, but like it goes up, so it's got like a curve here, and then it goes up here, and then it goes back down again. I'll pop up a picture because that will be easier to see, to understand what I mean. That's the reason why I'm not 100% sure. It's the bottom shaping that I think looks nice, but I'm not sure it will look good on me. So that's another reason why it's a bit like, I'm not sure which one I will make. Maybe I won't even make those 2. Maybe I will see another pattern that's coming out in the next few months that I will fall in love with even more and will want to make. We'll see. And then there are 2 other like tops or accessories that I would like to make. The first one is the one that I want to use this yarn for, and that is a naked knit, the simple bralette that I really, really want to make. I want to knit it as part of the, I don't remember the name of it again, but I've talked about it before on my channel, the Naked Knit Along hosted by KO Atelier on Instagram. I think this is just going to be a really lovely for example, wearing it under a cardigan. At home, I wouldn't do that outside of home, but yeah, maybe if I have enough I can knit it a little bit longer so that it can act as a top. We'll see. This is going to be my first time knitting a bralette, so I'm kind of excited for it, but also kind of anxious to see if I can figure out exactly the measurements that I need to make and everything so that it fits really well. So we'll see. And lastly, the last pattern that I would like to make is a pair of socks. Do I have socks on my needles already that I've still not finished? Yes. Would I like to finish these before I start these? For sure, but we'll see. But these are the Petrol Drop socks by Florence Miller, or Handmade by Florence here on YouTube. I want to use Isager sock yarn in the colorway 0. I've got 2 skeins of this, which should be enough. I think what I would like about the idea of knitting this up is, first of all, the socks look gorgeous, and she's got a video tutorial that goes along with it, which I think is really, really lovely. This would be my first time knitting lace, and that's a technique that I really want to learn this year. And finally, I have the Petrol Drop camisole pattern already in my library, and I would really like to make that for the summer, so I think this would be a nice way to learn the stitch pattern before actually diving into a full camisole, which isn't that much more knitting, I guess, in a way, because this is going to be quite on small needles, but hopefully it's still a good idea. We'll see. This might, I'm excited for this, but if it doesn't come to fruition, that's fine. So those are all for the patterns that I want to make. That is a lot. I don't think I will make all of them. I don't think I will have time to finish them before the end of the spring. So this is more of an inspiration, a dream knit list that I want. I think this is a nice time to remind you that, don't compare yourself to other people that are knitting. You may not be as fast as them, they might not be as fast as you, they may have more time on their hands than you do, or vice versa, I spend a lot of my time knitting when I'm not at work, so that's why I'm knitting, kind of fast, but also kind of not. I definitely don't have as many finished objects as other people do on their podcasts, but also I only film once a month my podcast, whereas other film every week or every couple of weeks. So you don't. So the main thing, the most important thing, is to enjoy your craft and make what you want to make, and just enjoy the process. So I will see you in my next knitting podcast to talk about all of those, 2 of those patterns that I've actually cast on already, and other patterns that are still on my needles from winter, but hopefully should be wrapped up kind of soon-ish, so that I can have more time to knit other things. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!